Is Rapid City, South Dakota an affordable place to live? Or maybe more importantly, is Rapid City the place that you want to spend your hard-earned cash living in? Everybody, Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realtor, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. I've tried to do a cost of living video every year for the past number of years from when I started in 2020. And as you know, since the pandemic, things have changed quite a bit. So if you're looking for a good laugh or maybe a good cry, take a look at that 2020 video to see where things were back in the day and compare it to how we're going to talk about things going further today. I always like to start these videos with the calculator tool, the cost of living calculator tool you can find. You just type in cost of living calculator. There's a whole bunch of different ones. They'll all have kind of a different version of how they calculate them based upon what parameters they're using. But you'll get a pretty good idea of your city versus Rapid City in these calculators. So for instance, if we typed in Denver, you can see here that we're living in Rapid City is a little bit cheaper than it is living in Denver. I like to use Denver because it's our closest metropolitan area. But if you come from other parts of the Midwest, say Springfield, Missouri, you'll find that it's more expensive to live in Rapid City. Let's talk about the amount of money you make, the wage you can expect while living in South Dakota if you're going to be working in the state of South Dakota. In the US, the average salary is about $65,000, with Massachusetts bringing in the highest salary of about $80,000. In South Dakota, we're not dead last, but we're also below the average at about $53,000 for your average salary in South Dakota. So what kind of house can you rent or buy in the state of South Dakota and in Rapid City with that wage that we're talking about? According to apartments.com, the average rent in this nation is about $1,750. Here in South Dakota, that average rent is about $1,125. If we look at a local property management site, you'll find that you can get into an older style 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment for around $850, $900. As you get into 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, that gets to be closer to $1,600 to $800. And as you get into newer homes with up to 4 bedrooms, you can expect to spend over $2,500 per month on that property. Prior to 2020, you could usually buy a property for cheaper than you could rent one. However, that's not the case anymore. As property values have increased and those interest rates are still around, hanging around that 7%, it's really tough to find a property that you can buy for cheaper than your rent. In 2024, in Rapid City proper, the average single-family home sold for about $400,000. Now, these are just single-family homes, not considering condos or manufactured homes, and they sold anywhere from $80,000 to $2.6 million. If you consider buying that average $400,000 home, that at a 7% interest rate, which is kind of where things are right now for a 30-year mortgage, that puts you at about $2,661 for a monthly payment, and that does not include taxes and insurance, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you manage to find a smaller property for around $250,000, which there's a few available, but it gets kind of tough in that category, at that 7% mortgage is about $1,660 for your monthly payment, not including taxes and insurance. If you want to do some remodeling on your property, how much would that cost in the state of South Dakota? For your average remodel, and we're talking, a bigger remodel, not just, changing out the cabinets, we're talking about a $52,000 bill for the country. That same average is about $39,000 in the state of South Dakota. Whether you rent or you buy, chances are you're going to have to pay for some utilities. Fortunately, South Dakota is pretty good on the cost of utilities according to the national average. Move.com is organizing these utilities by not only electricity and gas, but also internet, phone, and streaming services. And the only 3 states where you'll pay less utilities is Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And fortunately for you, if you are a remote worker, South Dakota has some of the cheapest internet service prices in the nation. With the wind and hail that we get in the state of South Dakota, our home insurance prices aren't really anything to write home about. South Dakota is the 11th most expensive state when it comes to hail insurance premiums. Now, this home insurance graph, I'm not sure where they're grabbing their information from. It does seem like they are a little high compared to what I've seen. For instance, we have State Farm insurance on our house with a lower deductible, so it's not too bad, and we're paying about $2,000 per year on our $300,000-ish home. And then there's those dang property taxes. Rocket Mortgage states that South Dakota is number 35 on the list of the nation. You can expect to spend 1.1 to 1.3% of your purchase price of taxes every year. We're considering that $400,000 average sale price in Rapid City. 1.2% of that is $4,800. So that's $400 a month you would pay for your property taxes. Add that to that payment for your mortgage. So since we're talking about taxes, let's throw in income and sales taxes. The benefits of living in South Dakota is the 0 sales tax rate. It's nice when you're doing your federal income tax that you don't have to worry about doing your state income tax as well. See here across the country, you could be spending as much as 13% of your income to the state, or only 2.5% to our neighbors to the north. As far as sales tax go, we have a 4.2% sales tax across the state, and then every city usually has about a 2%, averaging about 1.91%. In our state, you're paying sales tax on pretty much everything. All the services, all the goods, whether it's clothes, whether it's food, whatever it is, you will be paying sales tax on everything to make up for the 0% income tax. There are a few exceptions here. Things like buying a car, I think is a 3% sales tax rate. The contractors are charging a 2% excise rate on their services. And there's a few more exceptions that we won't go into detail here on. But for the most part, if you are buying something, you pretty much can expect to pay a sales tax on that. And in some locations, there is a 1% tourist type tax. So motels, some of the food services also have this 7% tax. But as you can see from this combined rate graph, our combined rate falls within the cheapest 20 states of the country.
Now it's time to talk about groceries. So for reference, this is February 10th, 2025. I'm sitting in the Family Fair parking lot, which is a regional grocery store. We're going to go in and check out some standard grocery items in there. They tend to be a little more of your middle-of-the-road type prices. Your Walmart is pretty much more the cheapest, and then Safeway is a little more expensive. So let's go in and check out some prices.
Donuts. Doritos. What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
All right, now let's shift gears and talk about your car. If you're looking to buy a used car in the state of South Dakota, you will find it's one of the most expensive places to buy a car. My assumption would be, since we're sharing with North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, that it has a lot to do with the distance and the remoteness of our area. Now that you've got your car, you've got to insure that thing, right? South Dakota, we're about the middle of the pack when it comes to full coverage auto insurance rates. However, if you're looking for just deductible insurance, we're pretty cheap in the nation, $376 for an annual policy. What about car registrations? The only thing you need to do is get new tags every year, and that's about $100 per car. With our kids' cars, we got about 5 cars on our bill, a boat and a trailer, and that's about $575 a year for the tags. Every few years, they come up with a new plate, and of course, the premiums go up a little bit when you have a new plate year. Aside from the car registration, making sure you have insurance, we don't have any smog tests, we don't have any required inspections. You don't have to do anything else with your car except for those 2 things. And of course, you got to put gas in those cars, right? Gas in our area right now is about $3 per gallon, and it's been hovering between the just under $3 to $3.33, $40 per gallon for the past year or so. Now, there's not a lot of competition in Rapid City. Usually, if one gas station is at that price, the majority of them will be as well. Safeway does have some discounts if you're a Safeway member, and it's about 10 cents cheaper over at Sam's Club. Just don't go on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's take a quick break here, and I want to give you a real-world example of what you can expect to spend on a property here in Rapid City based on our own experiences. A couple years ago, we bought a 1,300 square foot home for our two kids to rent basically from us. And we fixed it up. Now, this home was built in the 60s. We actually added some insulation in the attic, but the walls, it's not great for the insulation factor, and it still has the old windows and the old siding. That all being said, it's worth about $300,000 today, maybe a little bit less, but we'll use $300,000 to make it an easy number. At today's 7% interest rate on a 30-year note, that would be about $1,830 per month just for the mortgage. Taxes on this home are $31.57, so that's about $263 per month. And the insurance is about $1,000 per year, which is a pretty good rate. I'm not exactly sure how we got that, but there we go. So that's $83 per month. So today, just for the house, is $21.75 per month. Now let's add some utilities in here. Now, of course, how you keep your home, how warm you keep it, how cold you keep it is going to be different for you. So these are just guidelines to give you an idea of what they are paying to give you a feel for what might be working for you. Fair warning, my daughter loves it cold, like ice cold. So they run their AC all the time in the summertime. So gas on this property, which is a hot water heater and the furnace, in the summer is about $20 per month, but in the winter it's closer to $120. So that averages about $75 per month. Electricity runs from $75 in the wintertime to $200 at the max in the summertime. So that's about $125 a month. Your water comes in about $90 per month, and that's water, sewer, and garbage. And if you throw in the internet, that's about $70 for a decent internet speed. That's total of $360 per month. Now, if we tack on their two cars, the insurance on one car is $970 a year, and the other $1,472 for full coverage insurance. You're looking at paying about $200 per month for your car insurance. Now, when it comes to groceries, we taught them how to cook, so they cook most nights for just the two of them, and so they do buy a lot of fresh produce. However, we buy our meat in bulk, so they take some of that from my freezer. They really come over and steal it from me. So all that being said, they spend about $400 per month on groceries in Rapid City. So adding up the mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, car insurance, and food grocery bill, you end up about $31.40 for your total monthly expenditures to live in that type of property. One of the things you might have noticed at the very beginning of the video when I did the screenshot of our cost of living versus Denver's is that the healthcare was in the red. A lot of the other expenses that we've been mentioning are considerably cheaper than a lot of the country. Healthcare is not one of those. We are currently ranked number 2 for the most expensive states in the nation for healthcare. And this is looking at the annual premiums, etc. Our ranking is not only second in the nation for most affordable overall, but also 4th and 5th in a number of other key factors when they're looking about affordability for healthcare. Because we only have one health system here in Rapid City, Monument Health, with some other smaller ones kind of there as well, the competition isn't that great. So my assumption would be that because the competition isn't great, you get higher prices, etc., etc. This expensive healthcare also translates into adult senior care. We're about $200 more than the national average on your assisted living facility average and also your private room. However, we're almost $2,000 more to get that home health aide to come to your house. Fortunately, the news gets a little bit better for your children's daycare. While it's still not cheap, the annual cost per child in South Dakota is about $6,700, which is the 3rd cheapest in the nation, and that's considerably less than the $10,000 national average cost per child. And look at District of Columbia, $20,000 almost per child for daycare in that area. And talk about cheap things in our state, we are one of the lowest states for gym memberships, because that's what you needed, right? What about going out to eat? Downtown Independent Ale House has some amazing pizzas. They're about $15 to $16. And Old Chicago has some specialty pieces between $20 and $30 per pie. Your Chinese food is about $13 per entree. You could probably expect to spend $17 for a burger at the Firehouse or Murphy's. Or you can go to Five Guys and spend $11 on the burger and $5.50 on those fries. Expect to spend about $15 per entree on your Mexican restaurants, such as Que Pasa. Sears Steakhouse on West Main has steaks starting for $25, and Dakota Steakhouse off I-90 starts at about $30 per meal. We got a lot of really cool coffee shops downtown in Rapid City, and you can spend between $5 to $6 on your specialty coffee. The other thing that you'll find plenty of in Rapid City is craft beer. They have varying prices, so you actually have to go inside and not just check out online like I've been doing for the rest of this video. But when I've gone out to one of these places, we spend about $7 to $8 on a beer. What about entertainment in Rapid City? You can go to a play put on by Seraphim Theater, Catalyst Theater, or the Community Theater for about $30 a ticket. Attend the Black Hill Symphony for about $40 a ticket. Attend a concert at the Monument Civic Center starting at $75 depending on, who's performing. Go to a Rapid City Rush hockey game for $32 a ticket, and then check out Abby's, an alternative music scene. Concerts and music there start about $15 per person. My daughter is going there for a Taylor Swift sing-along. If you're looking for some fun in Rapid City, you can go ice skating at the indoor skating rink for $8 a day with a $6 rental, or swimming in one of the Rapid City pools for $8 a day as well. Speaking of swimming, check out Watigi Indoor Water Park, which is about $50 per day. Got a bunch of quarters laying around? Check out Press Start Arcade. Downstairs are the classic games, the 80s games that we grew up with, Pac-Man, Galactic, all the things. If speed is your thing, check out Flags and Wheels. For $7.50 for 5 minutes, you can race the go-karts, or check out the race carts for $17.50. If you're done with that, $25 gets you to playing paintball. There's also laser tag, arcade, and many other things. And since you're here in Rapid City, you're gonna go out into the Black Hills. The National Forest has an annual pass for $50 that covers all the parking areas, which normally cost like $6 per day, so usually pays for itself pretty quickly. An annual pass to South Dakota state parks to get into Custer and Angostura is at $40 per year. Don't forget it costs $11 to park at Mount Rushmore, which also is an annual fee, so you can take your friends and family there all the time. Attractions such as Reptile Gardens is $25 for adults. You can go downhill skiing at Terry Peak for $75 for a lift ticket. You definitely got to check out Rushmore Terrainway Adventures. You can buy a 5-ride pass to the Alpine Slides for $85. Things in the Rapid City and Black Hills area aren't as cheap as there used to be. And with the demand that we've had over the past couple of years, it's been a little more expensive to get into our area. The people that I've helped move from metropolitan areas are extremely happy to be here. They are saving money, they feel like they're not paying as much in taxes, and they feel like they have a little more freedom than they did in some of the more metropolitan areas. However, if you look at this chart, South Dakota comes in about number 20 on the cost of living index. A number of the Southeast states and the Midwest states that have a cheaper cost of living than the state of South Dakota. I hope this really gives you a great idea of where the cost of living is in Rapid City and South Dakota in 2025. Whether you're just thinking about maybe moving to the area or are considering a move to the Rapid City area, please check out my relocation guide, The 13 Reasons Why You Should Move to Rapid City. I'll put that link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and remember, love where you live.